hello, everyone, and welcome to Aromatic Chat, the podcast that introduces you to registered clinical and certified aromatherapists from around the world. Every other week, my super awesome, way smarter than me baby sister sits down with a different aromatherapist to learn about their aromatic journey and how they use essential oils in their lives and businesses. Aromatic Chat is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching, and my sister Melissa is your host. She is a master transformational coach and a registered aromatherapist. Once again, everyone, welcome and enjoy the show.
Hello, friend, and welcome to episode 115, Aromatic Chat with Amy DeLong. Amy is an animal aromatherapist and holistic pet care expert. She brings unique insights to supporting animals through her work as an animal communicator and intuitive energy healer. Amy helps pet parents find holistic solutions to help their fur babies live the best life possible, including teaching pet parents how to use essential oils safely while giving animals a choice in selecting aromatics. She has supported hundreds of pet parents over the years, partnered with veterinarians, and served as a veterinarian assistant at wellness clinics on Native American reservations. Amy is the creator, instructor, and mentor of the Animal Aromatherapy Certification Program at the Essence of Time College of Holistic Studies. She's dedicated to helping animals without devoted pet parents by fostering and transforming the lives of starving, neglected, and literally mangy mutts. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from Amy, so let's get started. Amy, I am so glad that you are joining me here on Aromatic Chat because you have a very wonderful, beautiful, amazing, unique niche. And I can't wait to let the listeners, hear about everything that you're doing.
Cool. I'm excited to be here.
Great.
Talk to you. I love your show. I love hearing about what everybody else does because it's so outside of what I do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And let's just start with the first question. How in the world did you become an animal aromatherapist? But not just that, teaching it to others.
Well, I was always doing some rescue with animals, right? They were always just a part of my life. And maybe 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now, I had a friend who was doing Jane Buckles' program. She was a nurse, so she did Jane Buckles' program, and she would come, no online programs at that time. So she would go away for her weekend, and she'd come back and show me her samples and tell me about what she learned. And so that's how my education started, was sort of, the hearsay sharing of her learning. And so I was using with my family and as my animal business. It wasn't a business at that time, but it was my interest. And so I was taking a class, animal healing class, a training, and the instructor incorporated essential oils into the training. However, everything was straight, neat, or, not diluted, all of this. And I'm going like, wait a minute. You dilute this for kids, you dilute this for people. Why are we not diluting for animals? And thankfully, there was a couple other people in the class that had good training and, more formal training in aromatherapy. And we were all like, yeah, no, great tool, but not like this. And so that kind of started. And it was also one of those duh. Why am I not using this with animals when I'm doing rescue and anxiety and, helping these animals? So that's what triggered the aromatherapy aspect of the business. And there was only, I think at the time, AromaHead was the only one doing like an online thing. And I really wanted to learn more, but I didn't want to do human case studies because they weren't relevant to me. So eventually I did Kelly's animal aromatherapy program, and about the same time, or maybe about the time I was wrapping that up, Carolyn Ingraham came across my radar, and she's in the UK. So working with her wasn't at that time, again, no online things, was very limited what we could do. But eventually she had videos of like examples and stories and things. And I saw a video of her working with a dog that was in a shelter who was terrified and aggressive towards men. And in this video, which of course gets time lapsed over, it's still a very, very short period of time, like hours and maybe a day and the next day. But this dog was so transformed and able to, he was on the euthanasia list, and he was saved. And I'm like, I gotta learn this. I gotta do this. So that's what opened me up to the zoopharmacognosy and the self-medication, self-selection process. And it just evolved from there. And I was already listening to animals. I was already doing this animal work. So it just fit right in with everything else. I mean, it's like, let's just listen to what they have to say about aromatics and what they need. And so that kind of got me to today. That's the short 20-year version.
That's amazing. And you mentioned a couple of things, and people might not really know what that means.
Yeah.
So the self-selection, self-medication, what is that about?
What is that? Well, officially, zoopharmacognosy is a field of study in animal biology where they look at, if you break the word down, you have zoo is animals and pharma is medicine and gnosi is knowing. So it's this idea that the animals are going to select the aromatic, the plant, medicine, basically. These are wild animals we're talking about. They're going to select the plant that they need to rebalance their health. And they have documentation, a lot of it with, actually recently, maybe people have seen this in the news, there was an orangutan that they got on video where he took a plant, I don't know what it was, but he broke it down. I think he chewed it up and he wiped it on his cheek where he had a gash. And they watched him do this for, I don't remember how long a period he did it, but then it healed. And they had never had record of them doing things topically to themselves. But a lot of times they will eat a plant that is toxic or is potentially toxic, right? But they eat just enough to get better, and then they walk away. And it's that concept that the difference between medicine and a toxin is the dose, right? So in the wild, these animals are choosing their own dose. And so Carolyn Ingraham, who was believe she was a biologist first, was aware and studying and doing this kind of work with wild animals, and she translated that over to what her field of study that she coined is applied zoopharmacognosy. So that's using these same concepts with animals that are not free to forage in the wild. So they may be our own pets in our homes. They may be, even horses that are not free ranging, right? They're limited, or zoo animals too. So taking that same concept that we trust their innate knowing that what they need, and it's our job to listen and learn how to listen to what they're saying. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful tool. It's really, I think it's fun. It always amazes me. It doesn't surprise me, but it's just always so cool to watch these do exactly what they need. And then I don't want to say they're miraculously better, but I have certainly seen a lot of transformation.
That's incredible. And what you're talking about, what I hear you saying is intuition, right? Animals still are in touch with their innate intuition, that knowing that they just know what is right for them. They know what is good for them. As humans, right? We turn that off. We shut it down. We shove it aside, and we outsource. I call it outsourcing our intuition. Amy, what do you think I should do for my dog? Instead of trusting that I know what's best for him. So where does intuition come in for you?
Oh my, it's totally weaved into everything that I do. I think, when it comes to animals, I very much, in one of your last episodes, they were talking about subtle aromatherapy, and I said, that is so woven into everything. I'm like, chemistry? Oh yeah, there's chemistry. Yeah, we need to kind of be aware of chemistry, but subtle is where it is with the animals, because they are just in that we call it instincts for the it's referred to instincts as animals, but it's totally their intuition.
Mhm.
And we're all connected to that same electric or electromagnetic field. And so it's just working with them all the time. They inspire me. I mean, it's always so humbling to see how knowledgeable they are and what they need.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful that I can be a part of bridging that for them.
So cool. And you said you've been doing rescue, like it's just always been a part of your life?
Well, in a way, I mean, when I was little, my dad happened to be like on the village board. And so whenever there were stray animals, they would call us by default. And so I kind of got, hands-on just because there I was. But in my adult life, fostering dogs a lot. And I spent over 10 years doing spay and neuter wellness clinics on Native American reservations in northern Minnesota, which, is about 5 hours from where I am. So my version of in rescue is like I am in the trenches rescue, like out in the field and dealing with mangy mutts and I mean, lots of trauma, whether it's emotional neglect trauma or physical abuse trauma. And so, yeah, I've had, I would bring, when we're up on the rise, we're very limited in our resources. And I would bring, just a handful, half a dozen bottles with me. And I could offer bottles, with that self-selection concept and just offer, because these animals, these are mostly dogs and cats. We did have some other species that would pop in, but they're freaking out because they've never been in a crate. Some of them never been in a building. They were in a car to get there, which is not, I mean, none of this is natural for them, right? So to be able to offer them a bottle of balsam fir, and they're from northern Minnesota, right, where there's tons of pine trees. So anything tree related just helped like ease that anxiety. I had one case where a dog was just, he literally, he broke himself out of this crate. And you look at it like, how did he even do it? Because like the door was inwards. I mean, he was out of his mind. And by offering him oils, he could just come down. He's still stressed. I'm not going to get rid of that stress, but certainly was able to cope with the situation much, much better. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of what I really love doing, is tea touch is another part of my work. And using the essential oil, or not just, I shouldn't say aromatherapy, right? Because I'm not just talking essential oils, we're talking hydrosols, I'm talking herbs too. And by tying them together, it's like the layers of the onion get peeled back. Like the aroma just helps settle the animal. They receive touch better. They're more open to receiving. That helps release a layer of trauma, and we just keep going, bring in the oils again, do a little more touching, and it just opens them up. Where within a 2-hour session, this dog that hadn't come out of the corner, because she was a puppy mill rescue, that's a whole other category of rescue. But she wouldn't come out of the corner of the house and are off the deck. And I got a video a week later where she came off the deck and running to the backyard to the people, which to them, because, people adopt these animals and they just want to they're doing a good deed, right? I mean, we want to help this animal, but then they get stuck with, how do we help this animal? Because a lot of times they don't realize how much damage there is, or the rescue isn't aware, and they just, there's all kinds of dynamics that go along with that. But bringing nature back to the animals is natural for them. But I love teaching pet parents how to see their own animal. Whether it's aromatherapy or just a reactive dog, because all behavior is communication. So I said, there's no bad dogs. If there's a bad dog, it's because you didn't train them, or they're trying to tell you something. And so to figure out what they're trying to tell you is basically that's the essence of my work, really, is helping pet parents to figure out what they're telling you. But the really fun part about self-selection is sometimes what they choose can help tell you what the underlying cause really is.
Yes, I love that. I love that because it does work both ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. And it sounds like you really trust your intuition a lot. You're letting the animals intuit what is best for them. But as far as working with the pet parents and reading the body language and everything, that sounds like a lot of your intuitive gift as well.
Yes. Yeah. Because in addition to that, I do animal communication and energy healing as
Ooh.
well. So all these things can get weaved together, or I grab the tool that's going to work best. What's the tool that works best for the animal, or multiple tools, but also what tool works best for the pet parent. If they're interested, I will custom blend something that's already diluted that they can just put a couple drops on their hands, rub them together, just and allow the animal to inhale and take it in, pet them with it, or apply however is appropriate for the animal, for the dog. Because with cats, I wouldn't be applying oils topically.
Right.
One of my older dogs who's no longer with me would be just restless and pacing 2 a.m., right? I mean, we're old, we're in that final season. And so everybody's up, it's 2 a.m., but we had our bottles and I could offer, do you want this one? And I had them at different dilutions. So which one do you want tonight? And in 10 minutes, he'd be back asleep, and that's a common struggle that pet parents have is their dog, especially as the dog's age. But cats can certainly get very restless as well. And chamomile tea, or you can brew a tea, they can drink it, right? You can brew it up, cool it down, put it in a bowl. They could drink it. They can just take in the aroma. So yeah, it's great. I had a cat so the cat's dog friendly, but the people got a new puppy, a boxer puppy. And of course, the puppy was more energy than the cat wanted to deal with. And the cat was just kind of slinking around the back walls and not engaging, and then stopped using the litter box. And the veterinarian, they did all the tests. And physically, she was fine, but they put her on like kitty Prozac, the fluoxetine, and it didn't really help. And so we tried, I said, here's some, then I entered the picture and we tried some herbs, and valerian was like, the cat was addicted. And eventually the cat came out of her shell, and she was using the litter box, and she was off the medication.
Well,
And it was
we
really,
just forget how much stress affects our animals.
oh my God,
We forget,
it's huge.
Yeah.
You know how stressful our life is, just living in this world, right? And again, their instincts, they're so tied into whatever's going on in their environment, and especially us, right? So yeah, I'm like, I always reduce your stress. That'll help your animals, hands down.
Yeah.
And you can't hide it. I have people that will say, I don't want, especially as they near the end of life, I don't want them to know that I'm sad they're going to leave, or that I'm scared, or whatever I am feeling about them leaving. I'm like, well, let go of that idea, because they feel it.
They already know.
They already know. So you may as well just
Exactly.
talk to them about it,
Yeah.
and get it out on the table.
Yeah.
Try together, do that anticipatory grief while they're here. Because that's the sad thing, right? We pretty much always know if we're going to get an animal, we're probably going to be saying goodbye to it. And so, it just goes hand in hand, and we can't get around it. So, no, but neroli is great for that.
Yes.
It help, then there's the aromatics that help on the grief side and the transition side.
So did I read correctly that you're teaching animal aromatherapy at
Yes.
time?
Yes. So I partnered up with Essence of Time, College of Holistic Studies, I think they're called,
Yes.
essenceoftime.com, for an animal therapy certification for aromatherapists.
Amazing.
So yeah, and it was super, super fun because, I mean, honestly, part of me, I hide out in my animal world, right? And most of the time I'm teaching pet parents who don't really know a whole lot about aromatherapy, and I'm doing kind of 101 type things. And it was a little intimidating to think I'm teaching professional aromatherapists who some of them probably know a lot more than me because of, their field, and they've dove into it. But what's super fun about it is I got to teach them, or I get to teach about the animals, right? So talking about the energetics and how we listen to them and how they talk. There's a section in the course about body language, like how to read this, and we include birds and reptiles and rabbits. Really, yeah, we're really excited about it.
Very cool. So how many animals do you actually have that are yours, not fosters, not rescue?
Right now I have 3. I have 2 dogs and a Quaker parrot. All of them, I mean, like, my dogs are off the res, so
I was going to ask how many are foster fails.
Yeah, all of them were. In fact, the parrot was surrendered at a clinic. And when we brought her home, the intention was to bring her to a parrot sanctuary, parrot rescue. And they were all full. There was no room at the end, kind of thing. And by the time they had a spot for her, she had settled in to my home. And I just didn't have the heart to make her start all over again. Yeah, we used neroli hydrosol, spritzing that over her to help bring her anxiety, because she was terrified of people when she came down. And yeah, and so one of my dogs had been left at a dump at like 3 or 4 weeks old. I mean, so we've always dealt with some GI issues and some anxiety, and animals would come into the clinic, and then I would find like rescues that to get them off the res and go, get off here, go heal, and then what we see it, and it's so cool because there's a lot of behavioral science in the dog world coming out that proves what I've been seeing, all these years, of that they seem well adjusted maybe for the first 6 months or maybe the first year, and then you start seeing an escalation of these behaviors. That come in later. Like, I see that a lot in Minnesota. We're bringing animals in from like Missouri, Texas, where the problems are, where their shelters are just overloaded, and people bringing them into their home, and they seem really good, and they settle in, and then all the other behaviors start later. And so it's just, yeah. It's a hard cycle, and we do what we can, and I'm grateful to have these natural remedies to be able to help them, because sometimes when you have, especially GI issues, like the traditional, and a lot of my clients either don't want to do traditional veterinary medicine because it's prednisone, or it's steroids, or it's injectable, that, they just want to be more natural, or they've tried everything that the vet has and it wasn't helpful. So
because when you've got, and we're going to get a little woo-woo for a second, but when you've got generational issues, these animals that have been abandoned and neglected and things like that, a medication is not going to fix that. A medication is not going to even touch that. It might touch some of it, but it's not going to do anything for that issue. This is intuition. This is energy. This is nature. That's where we have to turn for those types of issues. And I always talk about that with my dog Spot. We're talking generations.
Oh yeah. Especially mom, right? I mean, how many mixed breeds reservations?
She has 25 breeds in her. We did the DNA test to get her, to bring her back. We had to know, and to put it on her, her import paperwork. But it's just, there's so much generational trauma and just the neglect, and it's wired in. It's wired just like it is for us.
Totally wired in. In fact, the research is not, I mean, doing the fun part of working with Essence of Time is they're so science-based, like that I had to bring in the science. I mean, and I love science. I have a degree in exercise physiology, so I love the science, but it's not always relevant for what my day-to-day. But I was finding like studies that were actually proving what you're talking about, that just all of that adrenaline and the stress for the litter when they're still in utero, they're taking all mom's stress and adrenaline, and it's already hardwired into them. And then a lot of times they come out and have their own hardships, right?
Exactly.
And more of that. And yeah, the only way, and I've seen so many dogs get put on fluoxetine, Prozac, like antidepressants, it just flatlines them. I mean, there are cases where it's helpful, but it certainly doesn't have the same effect as it does for people. It doesn't lift them up and make them happy. So yeah, when we can go with like, that's where I've seen aromatherapy, in combo with some touch to release that tension in the fascia, right? Release what's in their body and release it emotionally, and the amygdala and that whole limbic system connection. That's what I mean. It's just so amazing. Like, and I do think, it's one thing that's kind of sad that I see, and not the true aromatherapy, but out there kind of in the internet, is I'll see a lot of people will say, hey, what do you use for XYZ or GI or whatever the problem is? Do I put it on their food, or do I put it topically on them? And I'm like, guys, it's inhalation. To rate these guys, I mean, it's aromatherapy, right? I mean, we know the science of how that works, but you're talking animals, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even need to do it topically for anything other than this actual skin care.
Right, a wound of some kind, skin care issue, yeah.
And orally, no. I mean, I'm not a fan of proactively using anything. I mean, some supplements that make sense, but especially not oils, just proactively for preventative things. And inhalation will get you through GI issues. I mean, it will get you through so much. And if they do, I should say though, when you're doing self-medication, sometimes they'll lick it, right? They'll lick it off your hand. Mine, who had, that was from the dump, and we've been dealing with anxiety, I ended up buying her own bottle of rose pure oil, because I had like a 10% dilution, and she kept licking and licking. And I thought, all right, I'm going to let you have what you want. And we did this within a week, she didn't have the desire for a rose anymore. And her anxiety was significantly, I mean, she was overall more balanced.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I look at rose as one of those very precious oils.
Oh, absolutely.
That is reserved for very, very deep issues.
Yep.
The fact that she was like, give me that rose, I need it.
I was like, okay.
And now I'm done. And now I'm good.
Yeah, but it was licking it. She was licking it off my hand. It wasn't just taking it in. Right. And I have to say, she hasn't really, now that I think about it, I don't think there's anything else she's really licked.
That's funny.
Since maybe a lick, but not at that same level.
I feel like we could talk for hours. Oh my word, this is amazing. But I really want to make sure that people know like how to get in touch with you. So my next question is kind of like, how do people work with you? Is it like online? Do they have to come to you? How does it work?
Well, when people are in my area, I can do house calls. I don't have an office where people come to me, and primarily animals are going to feel safest in their own environment. So a lot of it's remote, right? So when I'm doing, communications and energy, that doesn't matter about distance. They can reach me through my website, which is amywilliamsdelong.com. I have a deep dive type of energetic session that I do. And once I do that, I really have a good handle of how they're what the animal's thinking, how they're feeling, how is that anxiety or that illness landing in their body. So once I do one of those sessions, then I have a pretty good feel of who the animal is and what they're going to need. And
Very cool. What are you working on right now that you're really excited about?
well, I just finished a new website. So that's like another big check, like off the big project list. And now my next move here and into like for 2025 is doing like little mini classes, like a workshop, like a self-selection workshop, and then offering more like safety and I mean the overall safety, because that's a really big question that I run into. What's safe? What do you use? What can't you use?
Very cool. And I know that you have a free gift for my listeners. And when they get that free gift, that'll put them on the mailing list so they know about your courses that are coming up.
Yes, pet-friendly diffusing guide for diffusing essential oils with pets.
And I'll
Yeah.
put a link to it in the show notes as well. So they can just go right there, sign
Yeah.
up for that,
That'd be great.
get that diffusing guide, and then you'll know when the courses are coming out. How cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
then there's also a Facebook group I have called Animal Aromatherapy Made Easy.
Who inspires you?
The animals. I mean, all of the Caroline's work did, right? I mean, that really just that opening that whole door. But I live near a regional park. I mean, my backyard's a regional park. So just being around nature and the animals and connecting in with, getting grounded with it, watching just how, or the seasons change. I mean, the nature just flows with change, right? They don't resist it. And they survive it. And animals, they're so resilient. These animals, then they come back and they just love you. Right. I mean, so much we can learn from them and I do every day. I mean, I'm always learning from clients and what they're teaching me. And
yeah. And as we close out our time together, I always like to hand the floor over to my guest. If there's something you feel like I missed, or if there's something that you really want to share with the listeners, I leave it to you.
The other really beautiful thing we didn't say about the self-selection and medication process is once you work with it, your animal trusts that you're listening to them. And it really strengthens the bond between you guys. And, that goes across so many different things, not just aromatics.
Absolutely.
So that's my 2 cents.
Oh my gosh, Amy. Honestly, I feel like you and I could talk for hours. This was so much fun.
I know. I know. I do too. Very nice. I was looking forward to chatting with you, just based on the little bits I knew about you from listening to the podcast. But
thank you. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Aromatic Chat with Amy DeLong. Be sure to check out the show notes for all of the links mentioned in today's episode. Aromatic Chat is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching. I'm your host, Melissa. I'm a life and wellness coach, registered aromatherapist, and intuitive healer. I work with women over 40 who've lost their spark and realize they cannot keep going like that anymore. I help them rediscover joy and purpose and experience peace, energy, joy, and mind, body, spirit well-being. The next episode of Aromatic Chat will be released on January 1st, 2025, and I look forward to being together then. Have a wonderful holiday season. Until then, peace, love, and aromatics.